大家好，欢迎大家来参加这个盛会。今天呢，我有这个荣幸介绍这个罗秉义教授。罗秉义教授呢，他是明大的药学系药理研究所的教授，他是从香港来。因为我昨天跟他聊了一下，我稍微就比较清楚他的一些background。他的中文讲得非常好。因为呢，他有一个非常好的太太，那个 Judy，就是培养出来的。他的成就非凡呐，如果要讲的话是讲不完。他从伊利诺大学毕业以后呢，就到那个 UC San Francisco 做研究，然后做得非常好。那我想在座的人都认识一位叫罗浩的教授，他就把他 recruit 到我们的明尼苏达来。然后他的专业非常的强，他是那个药物成瘾 addiction 的专家。他做那个药物成瘾呢，就做了很久，现在就是把他这个再shift到这个 morphine， 就是这个吗啡的这个成瘾的研究。这个吗啡的这个东西很有意思，最近是非常 hot topic。因为呢，在我们看那个网络新闻都有讲说要把它变成一个医疗用品，但是这个是有很多分歧在里面的另外他跟我讲说，事实上那个大麻很容易种，你在后院就可以种，然后那个如果说可以拿出来卖的话，是不得了。但是这个东西呢，它是一个很好的止痛剂。但是止痛完以后是不是会成瘾，这个我们不晓得，所以他今天会告诉我们很多这方面的消息，所以我们非常欢迎他，请大家欢迎这个罗秉义教授。
Okay, thank you for the introduction, and say that my Chinese is very good. Okay, but I have to give my talk in English because that's my lecture. Okay, and before I start, I want to thank John Wong to invite me to come. He has been inviting me quite a few years now, and unfortunately, my schedule never coincides with this meeting. So I'm very happy to have the opportunity to come here today and give you something about what I know a little bit. Since it's a pretty small audience, and when I lecture, I don't like my students to go to sleep. Okay, so if you have any questions during my presentation, please don't hesitate to raise your hand, and I see where I can answer your questions at that time. Now, today I want to talk to you about how we're trying to manage pain. This is not my research topics. My research topics are on addiction, but this has something to do with my research topic. So I have to know something about this before I can do my research. I'm sure that looking at the audience, I think more of us have to get up in the morning and say, geez, there's something don't feel good. Okay? It's always a pain somewhere. And pain is a very, if you consider pain, it's a pretty debilitating disease. Okay? It's something that everybody experiences. Now, I mean, how to define pain? I mean, this is a good statement from Albert Schweitzer. You know, Albert Schweitzer said, pain is more terrible law of mankind than even death itself. It's like sometimes you wish that you die, or you have some severe pain. But this is not how scientists define pain. This is, that's actually a very big international association of for the study of pain. They give you guidelines and things like that. Okay? And to define pain is basically is unpleasant sensory and emotional experience associated with actual or potential tissue damages or described in terms of subdamage. In layman terms, it's basically if you got injured, you feel some kind of reaction, you feel pain. This is what it is. It's your reaction to what happened to you. Okay? Sensory and emotional experience. So two things. You sense it and how you feel about it. Okay? This is pain. So there are all kinds of pain. It doesn't have to, this is all the things that we define it. See, just like acute and chronic pain. When you sometimes pain lasts for a long time, days, weeks, years, okay, decades. And you can have nociceptive pain, that means that like you cut your fingers, you stub your toe. You have inflammatory pain, that's like if you have arthritis, those are inflammatory pain. And then you have neuropathic pain, is something like if you have amputated limbs, okay, you don't have the limbs there, you still can feel the pain on the limbs, there are neuropathic pain. You have damage to your nerve, you have pain. And then you have something, a radiation pain, something like that you have something that is not really focused somewhere in your body that is kind of radiating all over the thing. This all definition of pain. Okay? So, with the World Health Organization, to look at that, how you can treat pain. Okay? This is basically what decision will follow, the step that you treat your pain. What kind of pain? So the first step is that gives you something like non-opioid adjuvant. Non-opioid is the same like morphine. So these are basically something like aspirin, ibuprofen, that kind of drug. They will be the first step to treat whatever pain you have. Then you get more severe, that you cannot do that anymore. Then you add on something like non-opioid or opioid analgesic. Okay? But then when you get really, really bad, that's when the opioid drugs like morphine comes into play. Okay? That's usually they will kind of step through that. If you look at this kind of letter, then you see that one of the things that's really used by physicians and everybody to treat pain is opioid or drugs like morphine, codeine, things like that you would see in the market. If you look at the same here, this will give you an idea how much opioid is being used, morphine is being used. And this is, I think the 2013 report hasn't come out yet, or has come out, I couldn't find it. But this is, look at the thing is that how much opioid like morphine is being produced in the world, okay? We are measuring in pounds, we're measuring in tons. So you look at that, this is the actual production in the years. And this is, look at the thing is that how much are being used in medication. 41 tons in the world. 41 tons of drugs like morphine. Morphine is being used in the world. Now remember now, each prescription that you take is something like 10 to 20 milligrams, which is 1/100th of a gram. So you can imagine how many prescriptions are being written in the world for pain. Okay. Among that, the United States consumes 23 tons. 23 tons, okay? So I don't know anyone in the audience that participated in this consumption. So why is it so much? Because morphine is a major product of opium poppy. You guys heard about opium poppy. And it's very easy to grow. And it's very rich. There's about 10, see when they have beautiful flowers, okay? And I just showed you several of these. And then when the flower fades, the seed pods come out, and the farmers go there and slit it several times, and the latest juice will come out. In this latex juice, okay, that's why we isolate morphine. Out of that, 10% by weight is morphine. Okay, so
how come it's gone? I heard what they use a small knife. For me to understand, it was like a string come down.
yeah, it is. But then it will just like the thing will just like how can you say it? Just evaporate. It will be really thick. It's still a drop. It's a thick.
I also heard Afghanistan farmers, they grow anything, they cannot make a living. Only thing they can make a living is to grow opium.
Exactly. The reason here is that this is morphine. Okay. The other to give you an idea, this is actually a very good medicinal. They have a lot of a lot of compounds that actually people use. As I think in some of the, we don't use it in the United States, but in third world country, okay, even in they take what we call the alcohol extract of this latex juice, and this is an elixir, and then usually in the 20s, in 1920s, that's what the United States doctors carry in the bag, because that in there it contains morphine, it contains codeine, it contains another compound called muscopine with antitussive that will prevent your cough. Okay, so these are really good pharmaceuticals on here. Okay, so the reason here is that from morphine you can make heroin. That's where heroines come from. Is that they derivatize morphine. That's where the things come from. So now, with this kind of availability of the thing, you know this is a problem. The problem here is that usually the drugs are being used for pain, but then people use it for recreation. You see that this is some kind of statistic. The amount of people that are abusing the thing. Usually, you look at this is a heart that is getting worse and worse. Is that basically 1 of 12 high school seniors report on medical use of Vicodin. Vicodin that's like codeine plus is a form of codeine. Okay, and then 1 in 20 abuse OxyContin. OxyContin is another kind of opioid. But the important thing is this, is that the drug overdose in the United States has been increasing. And most of them increase due to opioid overdose. Okay. So this is a serious problem. And the cost to the economy is high. This is just a statistic here. If you look at the healthcare costs, if you look at how many people are actually addicted to drugs, and opioids and other things, that if you say that they all go there and have treatment, it will cost about 0.3 to 0.4% global GDP just to treat them. Okay, 250 billion. And actually, 35 billion are being spent in 2010. This is the latest statistic. And then, unfortunately, most of the people that are affected are young people. Okay, they die. About 15 to 64, mainly in the 15 to the 50s age. So it's a pretty serious thing, and it costs 61 billion annually in the United States. That's why in the National Institute of Health, there's a specific institute called National Institute on Drug Abuse, just to study this kind of thing. Okay, and all my research are supported by National Institute of Drug Abuse. So tell your congressman, support that. Okay, so you say, why is it that a drug like morphine that gives you pain relief is actually make you addicted to the drug? Okay, it's a very, to make the long story short, it's very simple thing, because that because you say pain, as I say, pain is a sensory and an emotional thing, so you really have to sense things. Your brain has to process that, okay? So the pathway, the neural pathway that's involved in the pain is like this. The pathway that involved in drug addiction is like this. So if you compare about the different area in your brain that process pain and the different area that the brain that do drug addiction, you see that they're almost identical. Okay? That means that the pathway that causes the pain and the pathway that causes addictions, they overlap. Okay? So that means is that mainly anything that can activate this thing will be addictive. So things that like morphine activate this, that's why morphine is addictive. Marijuana activates this, that's why marijuana is addictive. Okay? Alcohol activates some of this, it's also alcohol is addictive. Okay? So now, just to give you an idea what it is, I think maybe some of you heard about this neurotransmitter, the compounds that in the nerve that carry out the signal of the nerve. And one of them is called dopamine. Okay? Dopamine is one of these things, they say if you eat chocolate, if you eat a lot of Chinese food, you feel good, that's dopamine. Okay? So those are dopamine release. Okay? So things like alcohol, morphine, marijuana control and release of dopamine in the part of the brain that cause you to feel good, the pleasure center. Okay? That's why all this drug has a common denominator, which is that it controls the release of the dopamine in the center that gives you pleasure. Okay? Or actually, this is a little more complicated. But, so how do they do that? How the drug morphine will do this? Morphine will do this by acting at a protein on the membrane of the nerve, okay? What we call a receptor. A morphine like this will bind to the receptor and it will trigger all kinds of cellular response, okay? These are just what we imagine what's happening here inside the cell. It triggers all these things, the cell responds to this is in the sense of a single cell, single nerve cell, but we have billions of those things, okay? So what it does is that, in one sense here is that, if you look at how nerve transmission will go, is that a signal, just like a pain signal in here come in, go to your spinal cord before it go up to your brain, and the receptor that's located at what we call the presynaptic terminal, that means that where the nerve from your finger go to your spinal cord, and you have to relay that message to the other part of the continuation up to the brain. The receptor activated by the drug morphine will control those release of the neurotransmitter so they can communicate with that. Okay? With that, because morphine, what we know is that it inhibits this kind of transmission. Okay? So what amounts to is that we would say that morphine are those kind of drugs, when they inhibit neurotransmission, they are normally we call downers. They kind of suppress your neurotransmitter signal. Okay? So if you look at this, it will decrease. That's why, if you remember the Wizard of Oz, when Dorothy went into the field of poppies, and then she went around for a while, she ran, and then she suddenly fell asleep because that morphine is sedative. Okay, that's why this is because inhibit neurotransmitter release. Okay, mini medical school. But if you look at this, how does it really work? Okay, in a way. Say that you have a pain in your joint. Okay, so react to the pain. This is the reaction. This sends the pain, this sends a signal. Okay, it goes there. If you look at this, what happening here? There's a lot of things happening. But one thing that you can say is that all this, they will all kinds of immune cells with that will release all kinds of things to cause you more pain. Okay, and this thing will transmit the signal through the spinal cord. Okay, and it go up to your midbrain there, and then you perceive the pain. You perceive the pain, and he said, now you know you have a pain. Okay, and because that we are wired that we don't want to. We have to react. Just like if you put your finger on the stove, you better know that there's pain, or else you'll burn your finger, and then you'll be serious consequence. So you have to react. You have to remove your finger from the stove. So the brain will tell this to say, get your finger, or rub your joint, whatever. And this is what the reaction. And there's another pathway coming down here to tell what you're supposed to do. Now, if you look at this kind of pain transmission, you can see that there are different kinds of drugs that one can have to prevent the pain sensation and how you react to pain. One thing that you can do is that you target where the site of injury, okay, where the thing is. And that's where all those aspirin, ibuprofen, and Tylenol, that's how it acts. It acts at the site of injury. It prevents the release of all those, what we call chemokines, and all those different things that causes you pain. You know that the transmission of pain from here, okay,